The psychology of self-transformation, why inner change is hard but necessary. There comes a moment in life when everything looks fine on the outside. Yet something feels missing inside. We follow the rules, meet expectations, and stay within the lines, only to realize we've strayed far from ourselves. In this video, we explore the silent cost of choosing safety over authenticity. Why do we trade our inner truth for approval? What does it mean to live a life that looks good but feels empty? Through insights from Jung, Maslow, and modern psychology, we'll uncover the invisible traps that disconnect us from our soul, and more importantly, how to break free. If you've ever felt like you're performing instead of living, or longing for a deeper sense of meaning, stay with us. This might just be the moment that changes everything. A silent life where everyone is in despair. Most people do not scream in despair. They do not collapse on the floor or cry for help. Instead, they go through the motions. They wake up, go to work, smile when expected, and answer fine when asked how they are doing. Beneath the surface, however, something feels wrong. A quiet emptiness lingers in their hearts. And it deepens with every passing year. They cannot name it, yet they feel it. A sense that life is slipping through their fingers. A suspicion that this is not how things were meant to be. This silent suffering often begins in early adulthood. Dreams once vivid start to fade. The passion that once burned becomes dull routine. We settle. For safety. For comfort. For approval. And in doing so, we abandon the parts of ourselves that long to grow. Over time, this inner conflict becomes unbearable. We begin to question everything. What am I doing with my life? Is this all there is? Henry David Thoreau called it lives of quiet desperation. It is the ache of those who feel they were meant for something more but no longer know what that is. Many mask this pain by staying busy or comparing themselves to others who seem worse off. But the truth remains. Something inside us is calling out. Not for success. Not for validation. But for a life that feels honest, alive, and worth living. Negative emotions don't come to kill you, they come to wake you up. Many people see negative emotions as enemies. When sadness arrives, they try to distract themselves. When anxiety surfaces, they suppress it. When guilt or regret lingers, they bury it beneath routine. But these emotions are not punishments. They are messages. Signals from the inner world telling us something is out of balance. They are not there to destroy us. They are there to awaken us. Carl Jung believed that neurosis often appears when people refuse to confront their true nature. Instead of listening to the quiet voice inside, they follow the noise outside. They live for what others expect. They avoid their fears. Over time, this avoidance creates a war within. The soul protests. Not with shouting but with symptoms. Anxiety. Insomnia. Depression. A deep sense that something is missing. When we learn to listen to these signals rather than silence them, we begin to understand their meaning. Sadness may be pointing towards something unprocessed. Guilt may be asking for change. Anxiety may be showing us where we are stuck. Each emotion, even the painful ones, can lead us back to ourselves. But only if we are brave enough to face them. Healing begins not when we feel good but when we stop running. Not when life becomes easy but when we turn inward and ask what our pain is trying to tell us. In this way, pain becomes a teacher. And in its teachings, we begin to return to who we truly are. When we choose the easy path, that's when our soul begins to die. It is tempting to choose what is comfortable. To stay where it feels safe. To avoid the hard questions and keep the peace. Even if it costs our authenticity. Many people build entire lives around this pattern. They follow routines that dull their spirit. They pursue careers they do not love. They surround themselves with noise so they do not have to hear their inner silence. And over time, they forget who they are. We convince ourselves that this is what adulthood means. Sacrifice dreams. Hide emotions. Smile when expected. Stay productive. But beneath the surface, something begins to rot. The soul cannot survive in a life that denies its voice. The cost of comfort is often the death of meaning. And meaning is what makes life worth living. Carl Jung warned about the danger of avoiding the path of transformation. He wrote that the road which seems safe is often the road of death. Not because it kills the body, but because it starves the spirit. People who numb their feelings, distract themselves endlessly, or settle for lives that feel wrong are not truly living. They are surviving. Existing. Drifting through years without touching the depth of life. Choosing the hard path is not easy. But it is where life begins again. It is where we meet our fears, our truth, and our forgotten self. The path of discomfort is the path of awakening. And sometimes, that is the only path worth walking. Not everyone who succeeds is happy, only those who live true to their essence truly bloom. Success is often praised as the highest goal. We are told to climb, to win, to rise above. But many who reach the top still feel empty. They achieve what they once desired. Yet something inside remains restless. That is because real fulfillment does not come from outside approval. It comes from alignment with who we truly are. Abraham Maslow studied people who lived with purpose and vitality. He discovered that the most thriving individuals were not chasing fame or wealth. They were moved by something deeper. A need to grow into their full potential. To express their true nature. Maslow called this process self-actualization. Self-actualization is not about perfection. It is about becoming whole. It is about listening to the quiet call within that says you are meant for more than just surviving. People who live this way are not always comfortable, but they are alive. Their actions reflect their inner values. Their life feels meaningful because it is true. Living from your essence requires courage. It asks you to let go of what pleases others and follow what stirs your soul. This is not the easy road. But it is the one where joy becomes deep. And success feels real. Because only when we are true to ourselves can we truly bloom. Right thinking can redraw your destiny, but only if you take action. Every life begins with a thought. A silent idea planted deep within the mind. Thoughts shape our perception, influence our choices, and form the blueprint of who we become. But a thought alone is not enough. It must lead to action. Without action, even the most powerful idea fades into nothing. There is an old saying that thought becomes action, action becomes habit, habit becomes character. And character becomes destiny. This chain shows us that small beginnings can create great transformations. But the spark must be lit. We must choose what to focus on and then move in that direction. Many people wait for clarity before they begin. They believe they must find their true passion or perfect path before taking the first step. But clarity often comes from movement. From doing. Trying, failing, and learning. Waiting can become an excuse to stay still. And stillness, over time, turns into regret. Instead, we must pick something that challenges us. Something that awakens curiosity. We do not need to know if it is perfect. We need to begin. Action is the bridge between who we are now and who we could become. It turns thought into transformation. It moves potential into purpose. Only when we act do our dreams begin to breathe. You don't need to wait until the fear is gone, you just need courage while it's still there. Many people believe they must feel confident before taking action. They wait for the fear to disappear. For the anxiety to subside. For the perfect emotional state to arrive. But this moment rarely comes. Fear is not a sign to stop. It is often a sign that you are on the edge of growth. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is oozing to act while fear still lingers. Every meaningful step in life brings discomfort. Whether it is starting something new, speaking your truth, or walking away from what no longer fits. Fear will try to hold you back. But waiting for it to vanish gives fear more power. It becomes the gatekeeper of your life, deciding where you go and who you become. True strength is revealed when you move forward with a trembling heart. When you take a breath and step into the unknown. Even if your hands shake. These small acts of bravery reshape who you are. They teach your nervous system that it is safe to act even when you are afraid. Over time, courage grows. Action becomes easier. Fear loses its grip. But none of this happens if you wait for comfort. Begin where you are, with what you have. Let fear walk beside you if it must. But do not let it lead. You were not born to hide. You were born to move, to rise, and to live. There's no way out of emotion, only through and beyond it. Many of us grow up believing that painful emotions are problems to be fixed. We try to control them, escape them. Or pretend they are not there. But the truth is that emotions are not barriers. They are bridges. They connect us to our inner world, pointing towards something we need to see, feel, or understand. When we try to go around them, we disconnect from ourselves. Avoiding sadness does not heal it. Ignoring anger does not dissolve it. Denying fear only feeds it. Emotions are energy. And energy needs movement. When we allow ourselves to feel fully, we give that energy a path to transform. Not by analyzing it endlessly, but by staying present with it. Letting it rise, peak, and pass like a wave. This does not mean being overwhelmed by emotion. It means being with it in awareness. Watching without judgment. Holding space for the storm to move through. In doing so, we reclaim power. We are no longer ruled by emotion, but also no longer running from it. True healing happens not when we eliminate difficult emotions, but when we integrate them. When we see them not as enemies, but as parts of us longing to be heard. There is no shortcut. There is only the choice to walk through the fire with open eyes. That is where transformation begins. Death won't wait for you to be brave, so what are you waiting for? We often live as if we have forever. We delay the difficult conversations. We postpone our dreams. We wait for the right time. The perfect mood, the absolute certainty. But life is not waiting. Time moves whether we act or not. And death does not ask if we are ready. It comes silently, reminding us of what truly matters. The Stoic philosophers believed that remembering death was not morbid but wise. It was a way to sharpen awareness and bring urgency to the present moment. When we accept that life is finite, we begin to live more fully. We stop wasting time on things that drain us. We start giving energy to what really counts. Steve Jobs once said that remembering he would die was the most powerful tool to help him make big life choices. Why? Because when you face death, fear loses its grip. Pride, doubt, and the need for approval fall away. What remains is the truth of your heart. And the courage to follow it. We do not need to fear death. We need to fear a life half-lived. A life where we never dared to speak, to love, to leap. Death reminds us that we are already naked. We have nothing to lose. So the question is no longer whether you are brave enough. The question is whether you are willing to live before it is too late. Trading your soul for safety, the price you pay is yourself. There is a quiet danger in choosing safety above all else. It does not come with alarms or dramatic collapse. It creeps in slowly, disguised as comfort, stability, or maturity. You build a life that looks fine from the outside. You follow the rules, avoid risks, and stay within familiar lines. But one day, you wake up and realize you do not recognize yourself anymore. You traded your soul for security, and now you are a stranger to your own heart. Carl Jung called this the road of death. Not because it ends life, but because it ends aliveness. When we betray our deepest values in exchange for approval or convenience, we cut ourselves off from the source of vitality. Over time, this inner betrayal turns into symptoms: anxiety, numbness, disconnection. We feel tired even when we rest. We feel lost even when everything seems in place. Life becomes flat, as if we are watching it happen from behind a screen. Yolanda Jacoby warned that when people block their natural growth, life will eventually push back. This often comes as a midlife crisis, emotional collapse, or sudden breakdown. The outer world may stay intact, but inside, something fractures. The guilt of not living fully begins to haunt us. It is not the guilt of doing something wrong, but the guilt of knowing we had a choice and never took it. The tragedy is not failure. The tragedy is forgetting who you are. The soul does not punish with cruelty. It punishes with silence. It fades. It withdraws. It lets you live the life you chose, even if that life slowly destroys you. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to return. But it is never too late to choose differently. You can walk away from the life that is too small for your spirit. You can reclaim the parts of yourself you once abandoned. Safety is not peace. Safe tie is the cage. And what waits beyond it is not danger. It is freedom. But only if you dare to reach for it. Social pressure and invisible traps that make us lose ourselves. From the moment we are born, society begins to shape us. We are told what is acceptable, what is desirable, what is worthy of praise. Slowly, we absorb expectations that do not belong to us. We are encouraged to chase goals that do not come from our hearts. We learn to compare, compete, and conform. And in this process, we begin to drift away from ourselves. We are taught to believe that success means status, wealth, and admiration. That a good life is a visible one. That happiness is something we can display, measure, and prove. But underneath these messages lies a quiet violence. The violence of disconnection. When we live for appearances, we lose touch with our inner world. We start performing instead of being. We smile for approval, not because we feel joy. We achieve for validation, not for meaning. Slowly, we become a version of ourselves that is easier to accept but harder to recognize. This disconnection is not always obvious. It hides in polite conversations, filtered images, and carefully curated identities. It hides in the way we silence our needs to meet someone else's expectations. It hides in the fear of disappointing others, even if it means betraying ourselves. The world does not ask you directly to abandon yourself. It simply rewards you when you do. And so, we become experts at fitting in, at being liked, at seeming fine. We trade depth for acceptance, authenticity for popularity. We build a life that looks good on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. This is not always a conscious choice. It is the result of years of adaptation. Years of trying to belong. But a life spent pleasing others is not a life truly lived. The pain of hiding is subtle but deep. It shows up as fatigue, anxiety, confusion. A constant sense that something is missing, even when everything seems complete. What is missing is you. Your voice. Your truth. Your permission to be fully human. To reclaim yourself, you must begin by seeing the traps. The invisible rules. The unspoken pressure to be perfect, to always succeed, to never need help. You must ask who benefits when you stay silent, when you pretend, when you shrink. And then, you must choose differently. Choosing yourself in a world that rewards masks is not easy. It takes awareness, rebellion, and deep compassion. But it is the only way back to wholeness. To a life that is not just impressive, but real. Not just accepted, but truly alive. Psychology isn't for the weak, it's for those who dare to face themselves. There is a common misconception that seeking therapy or exploring psychology is a sign of weakness. People assume that help means you are broken, fragile, or incapable. But the truth is the opposite. It takes immense strength to face yourself honestly. To sit with your pain, to confront your past. To question your patterns, and to choose change requires far more courage than denial ever will. Psychology is not about fixing what is wrong with you. It is about understanding what has shaped you. It invites you to trace your story, to see the roots of your behavior, your beliefs, your fears. It asks you to walk through your inner landscape not as a victim, but as a witness. Not to blame, but to reclaim. Every insight becomes a key. Every realization becomes a door. This journey is not for those who want comfort. It is for those who want truth. In a society that rewards image and perfection, choosing self-awareness is an act of rebellion. You are taught to perform, to succeed, to appear fine at all costs. But psychology says pause. Listen. Feel. Go deeper. It says your worth is not measured by how well you hide your wounds, but by how bravely you heal them. In this light, healing is not weakness. It is revolution. Many people live entire lives wearing masks. They become experts in pretending. But pretending is exhausting. Eventually, the cracks show. The body begins to speak. Through fatigue, anxiety, illness. What you bury will find its way to the surface. And when it does, you have a choice. You can numb it. Or you can face it. Facing it is the beginning of freedom. Therapy is not about being fixed. It is about being found. It is a path to wholeness. To integration. It teaches you how to become your own home again. Not perfect. Not painless. But honest. Real. Live. The strongest people are not those who never struggle. They are those who struggle consciously. Who turn inward not to escape the world, but to meet themselves in the dark and walk out with light. Psychology does not make you weak. It makes you real. And in a world built on illusions, being real is the greatest act of strength there is. The journey back to yourself. Psychology is not just a science. It is an invitation. An invitation to return. Not to become someone else, but to become yourself, fully, truthfully, and vibrantly. Each part of this journey is a door into the depths of your soul, where pain is no longer the enemy, but the guide. Where emotions do not need to be controlled, but heard. Where change is no longer pressure, but a homecoming. When you dare to move beyond the masks, beyond the defenses, beyond the voices of society, you will begin to hear a long-forgotten whisper, the voice of your true self. And in that place, you no longer need to run, prove, or perfect. You only need to be present. And in that presence, life truly begins to unfold. No one can walk this path for you. But you are not alone. Because every person who dares to live authentically, to face themselves, to heal, is a quiet flame helping to light the world. And perhaps, that alone is enough to make this life worth living.